Here's the real question. What do you do when you feel stuck, overwhelmed, and lost, especially after a setback? It can feel tough, it can feel challenging, and it's okay to be overwhelmed, stuck, and lost, and to normalize the fact that it's a very human experience. I'm going to share from some lived experiences and share six practical tips with you for you to be able to integrate into your life so that you feel like you truly have your back in the face of adversity during a tough time. Because let's be real, the setback may be over, but when it comes to, say, bouncing back from that setback, it can be a lot. It can be tough. And so I want to share some tips with you to be able to integrate and embody into your life. This way you feel like, you know what? I'm figuring it out one step at a time. And I know I can navigate out of the situation so that I can feel better and more confident about my life again. If you know anything about me, it's that I'm very passionate about spreading mental health awareness, especially because of my own lived experiences with mental health and just how much it's stigmatized in society. And I really feel like we need to start accepting the fact that our brains are as important as the rest of our body. And the fact that we have so much shame around our mental health is very sad. And that's why I talk about my own mental health and I'm very open about it and very vulnerable about it because I feel like through the practice of storytelling, we can connect with each other and support each other even more and also be an advocate for ourselves with our mental health. I know that when I saw a South Asian American woman come out and talk about the fact that she has bipolar disorder, it gave me the permission that I was looking for to be vocal about my experience with bipolar disorder and not shame myself anymore about the fact that, hey, I have a chemical imbalance in my brain and it is what it is. So, that being said, these six tips that I'm going to share with you come from a very recent lived experience of my own. I also have a condition called PMDD, which stands for premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Pretty much, it's like PMS times 10. So, the 1 to 2 weeks right before I get my red buddy, my period, it's a lot. It's not easy for me, and I have a hard time functioning. I experience intense fatigue. I even can slip into depression at times. And to be able to navigate that depression every single month is exhausting. So I finally made the decision recently to get on an antidepressant. And it was really tough for me to accept that I have to get on more medication to support my body because it feels like I have my very own pharmacy sitting on my nightstand. And I used to be embarrassed about that. But now I'm being more compassionate towards myself, especially my brain, because I think when it comes to mental health, we shame our brains so much that they should be optimal and functioning at a high level. But chemical imbalances happen, hormonal imbalances happen, and sometimes we need medication to support ourselves. So I'm being very vocal about this because I no longer want to experience shame around medication, especially because there's so much stigma around it. And coming from someone who used to be very anti even pain relievers once upon a time, like that used to be a real experience for me. And I used to think that I had to be self sufficient and be able to rely on myself completely and not ask for help. But I'm opening up more and more to the possibility of receiving support through different resources. May it be my therapist, may it be my doctors, may it be medication, loved ones, and it's making a really big difference. And that's the power of co regulation, where we live in a world where we're expected to kind of like isolate and heal ourselves through self regulation, but I really believe healing happens in community. So that's the kind of feeling I want you to have when you come to my podcast and you can feel like, you know what, Karishma sees me and she understands me for what I'm going through. So That's why I'm creating this episode, especially because setbacks can happen at any given time. They don't make an announcement and come into your life. They kind of just throw you off guard and happen out of nowhere. And so to feel stuck, overwhelmed, and lost during and after a setback is very normal. When I experienced depression this past month because of PMDD, what I did was instead of resisting the depression, I welcomed it into my life. And that's something that I'm also learning, not to be scared of what we think are quote unquote negative emotions, that all emotions are valid, all emotions are welcome. And when we don't resist, dismiss, neglect, or numb those emotions, that's when you become more self aware and your emotional intelligence increases, and you become a person that has their own back. Become someone that knows themselves even better because you're understanding your emotions, and you become someone that responds to things instead of reacts to things. So that's something that I want to share with you going into how you can support yourself after a setback, of how you can respond instead of react. So let's begin. So, the first thing, it's going to sound a little crazy, but hear me out. I want to introduce the concept of a doing detox. When you can detox from the act of doing by stepping into the practice of nothingness and doing less because less can actually be more, that's when things really turn around for you because you're conserving your energy. You're sitting with yourself after your setback and saying, you know what? I need some time to sit with myself and process what I went through so that I can then build the momentum to get back into my life once I'm ready to rebuild myself and then finally thrive again. So, this previous weekend, I had a lot of plans. I went to see Mel Robbins with my mom. It was phenomenal. I went into New York City with her, and it was a wonderful trip. I even did some shopping for some events coming up, and it's really fun stuff that I got to do. But then I was like, I need a break. I need to do nothing. So all of Sunday, I just chilled at home by myself. I had the house to myself, and it was me and Mocha, my puppy, at home, taking it easy. And I quite literally did nothing. I rested, I had my meals, and I just chilled. I didn't do much. I didn't scroll on social media. I didn't consume too much information. And at first, I was like, I'll do a lot of activities like reading, painting, yoga, going for an outdoor walk. But then I realized I'm tired of doing because my mind, body, and spirit were fighting for me during my setback, AKA when I was experiencing the depression with PMDD. So when you can recognize that, hey, it's okay to have a doing detox and do quite literally nothing for as long as possible. I know it's hard in a world where we are applauded for doing more and for hustling and for being productive. So it feels like it's the quite literal opposite, but that's the point. So, number one is practicing a doing detox, because then when you can cleanse your mind, body, and spirit by doing nothing, you're recharging yourself to then start building momentum to start doing. And this week, after having a doing detox on Sunday, I'm feeling much better. I've been socializing, I've been showing up to my responsibilities, taking care of myself and my hygiene, and it feels really good. So I highly recommend a doing detox. The next thing is that I want to share is inspired by something that I learned from a training I attended. And it was inspired by a song from Frozen 2, and it's called The Next Right Thing. So when you can consider for yourself what to do when it comes to the next right thing, when you're coming out of a setback, you're gonna feel a lot of feelings such as overwhelm, stagnancy, and feeling lost, because it's like, I went through a major setback. There was a lot of distraught and just a lot of emotions that came up. I was struggling and I pushed through it. But now I wanna get back on track and be on that momentum train again. And so to get to that point, figuring out what the next right thing is for you is what's going to help you to start taking one step after the next. And so the song The Next Right Thing from Frozen 2 has beautiful lyrics sang by Kristen Bell. And I listened to the song on YouTube recently after attending the training that talked about this song. And the lyrics at the end go, then I'll make the choice to hear that voice and do the next right thing. Notice how it talks about that voice. And if you know me, you know how much I love talking about intuition. So when you can tap into your inner voice and listen to what that intuition has to say for you, you're doing the next right thing based off of what's authentic and true to you, not what is considered right according to society, your peers, the people in your life, right? Like you quiet the noise by going within and checking in with yourself to see what is the next right thing that I want to do for myself. And you'll be surprised how much guidance, awareness, and wisdom, along with reassurance, love, and compassion, your intuition is going to have for you. So, I've been wanting to, for example, get onto my mic and podcast for the longest time, but I had to do the next right thing, which was being soft and gentle with myself before I can get back to work and start doing things again after being depressed. So check in with yourself, go inwards and see what is the next right thing according to your inner voice and take those steps going forward. One by one, you'll start taking steps out of the setback and you'll start seeing yourself rebuild and start to thrive once again. The next thing I want to share with you is the question, why are you actually doing this? When you ask yourself the question, why am I doing this? Why am I committing to XYZ social commitment or professional deadline, right? Like when you can give yourself that sense of purpose by checking in with why you are actually doing the things you're doing, you start feeling a sense of clarity and direction in life again. So I attended a Jay Shetty event this past Monday, which was phenomenal. Honestly, like to attend Mel Robbins' event on Friday and then attend Jay Shetty's event on Monday, like in a short period of time, in less than a week, to see two phenomenal speakers, authors, and people that are in the self development industry, was just so inspiring because I got to see for myself like why I'm actually doing what I'm doing, because there's a dream that got sparked within me that I one day want to be able to have my own events like this and speak to audiences and be on stages one day. And so reminding myself that I'm actually doing this work to serve, to uplift, to inspire, to connect, right? Like that gave me a sense of clarity and direction to come back to my work post setback. And I want to share something really uplifting that Jay Shetty talked about Monday night. And he asked the question, what is the difference between manifesting and wishing? You're going to be so amazed to hear this. Ready? So he said, manifesting is being in love with the process, and wishing is being in love with the result. Whew. Let that sink in for a moment. Let that really hit home and have you realize, wow, maybe I've been wishing all this time when I thought I was manifesting. So when you can check in with yourself and see, are you focusing on the result more than the process? That's when you can rewire things and redirect your direction and how you go about the situation and experiences in your life. Because when we're so result driven and result oriented, it's a beautiful thing. But at the same time, is it taking away the joy and the spark from why you're actually doing this? And so, after a setback, when you can give yourself that sense of clarity for why you're doing things and focus on loving the process over the results, that's when you can start enjoying your life more. And that takes me into my next step for you, which is to romanticize your life over catastrophizing your life. Very often after a setback, we may feel like, oh my God, my life is all over the place. And you may catastrophize things and realize that you're not where you want to be because of the setback that you just experienced. But when you can reconsider and have that moment of mindfulness and take a step back and say, okay, how can I romanticize the little things? Like taking a nice deep breath in the morning when you start your day, or taking a waft of your coffee beans and enjoying the fresh smell of your coffee, first sip of your coffee, or going for a morning walk with your puppy, or connecting with a colleague and having a conversation, right? Like if you can romanticize the little things in your life, that's what makes up your days and makes you feel like you're onto something and you're up to big and beautiful things. So remember, romanticize your life instead of catastrophizing your life. And that's going to support you to feel a lot more grounded, especially after a setback. Now, I'm not saying practice toxic positivity because that's not something that I want to promote here. But when you can savor and embrace the little things, that's when life becomes more beautiful and it gives you a sense of hope that, okay, I'm coming out of my setback and I do have blessings to be grateful for. The next tip that I want to share with you is to ask for help. This might be really tough for my, independent people, and the ones that feel like you can't ask for help because it comes off as a weakness, but actually it's a strength to be able to use your voice and say, hey, I could use support with this part of my life. I could use support by calling a friend and just expressing myself to them. There's a really big impact that happens in your life when you ask for help. And like I said earlier, you want to practice co regulation instead of self regulation as your only form of grounding yourself because healing happens in communities. I have a loved one who is unfortunately dealing with cancer right now, and his family is really leaning on the community for support. And so many of us are coming together wanting to help them and wanting to support them because we genuinely want to help them out and we want to care for them and show up for them in whatever way we possibly can. And you'd be surprised how much people actually want to help you and support you in the long run. So, once again, ask yourself, why do I resist asking for help? Do I really come off as a weak person if I ask for help? Or is there actual strength and courage in asking for help and saying, hey, I could use a friend or I could use a loved one, right? So, really sit with that and challenge the limiting belief that may be there when it comes to the resistance for asking for support. And my last tip is creativity. Get creative after a setback. Once again, it may be like, Krishma, I don't have time to be creative. What are you talking about? But you'd be surprised how powerful creativity could be for you and how it's a true self development tool. To be able to step into your creative expression can be so cathartic and powerful for you. When you can pick up an instrument and process your feelings by playing the instrument, or when you can get up and dance and just let loose and express yourself, or when you get your paints out and just paint whatever abstract comes to mind on your canvas, right? Like there's so much power in being able to express yourself creatively because you're processing the emotions that unfolded for you during your setback. And it's not going to backfire down the road and have you explode because you never processed the emotions that came up for you. And being creative is fun. It gives you a chance to tap into your inner child and support yourself. So, when it comes to dealing with setbacks, something I really want to bring home as a message is tap into creativity as much as possible, because that's going to be a really healing experience for you, and it's going to help you to express yourself going forward. So, to wrap up, first thing is to do a doing detox. Next thing is to do the next right thing by checking in with your inner voice. Ask yourself, why are you actually doing this? And step into manifesting by loving the process versus wishing where you love the result. Then romanticize your life instead of catastrophize your life. The fifth one is ask for help. And the last one is get creative. So, these are my 6 tips for you to be able to help yourself after a setback and to no longer feel lost, confused, stuck, overwhelmed, right? These are all different steps that you can take to support yourself after a life challenge or a setback and see how you can begin to feel better and confident again. So I hope this supports you. There's a lot more episodes to come. Thank you for tuning in. And if you feel called to reach out to me and have a conversation with me about any setback that you're going through and you want support with the help of a resilience coach, my DMs on Instagram are always open. You can find me at karishma.minocha, and I'd love to support you. And that's all for today. Take care, you guys.